Ravi, are you happy with 4 now or 4 for at least the long-term future?
I'm speaking in English here, Raunak. I said 4.
Okay. Should the IPL consider 5 teams qualifying to the playoffs instead of 4? What a question. What a topic. What a subject for ESPNcricinfo Runorder. And what a panel to discuss it. My God, we've pulled in the superheroes from all corners of the world. The might of Ravi, Shastri and Ian Bishop. The reputation that Dan Vettori carries. The legend of Piyush Chawla in the IPL. And we even have the representation from the IPL, from the franchises, proudly. The heart and soul of the Knight Riders wearing that logo. It might be Rinku Singh these days, but for years it's been Venky Mysore. It's a very good evening, Venky, and everybody else. This would be a great question to ask the franchises. Would they be keen on 5 teams qualifying now that the IPL has expanded to 10? Venky, take it away.
I'm so glad we won the last game and we are still in the running. Otherwise, it would have been very self-serving to say 5 would be good. So I think, I think it's a very interesting question. The format that we're playing this year is only the second time that has happened in IPL. Last time was in 2011. So in a way, what's happening is that the format itself is begging that question because you're playing 5 teams twice and 4 teams once. So is there a little bit of that skewing that happens because it's the luck of the draw? So if you look at the win-loss ratios of all the teams, it's interesting because Chennai has got about 60% win-loss and Mumbai has got 59%, KKR has got 55%, and the others for whatever reason is below 50. But there are 11 championships that have been shared by these 3 teams. So there is a certain logic to how the win-loss is reflecting in championships as well. So it's worked, but now with the new format, it's an interesting question. So I just thought I'll put in some of these thoughts. It'll be interesting to hear others as well.
Okay. Ravi, 10 teams now. Should it still be 4 to the playoffs, or could we expand that by 1 more?
Well, you can think about it, but not in the near future because it's 10 teams now. Stick with it. Stick and see how it goes for the next 2-3 years and then take a call. If it was the semi-finals, then you would be thinking otherwise. But now that you have a playoffs where, the top 2 teams get a second chance, I think just stick to this, because things were done in a hurry in the last year or 2 because of COVID times. I think things will settle. You might well get more matches in years to come. So I would rather wait, but definitely not, put that on the back burner totally.
Now, there is a league that already does it, Dan, doesn't it? The Big Bash has opened it up to 5, and that's a team or a league with just 8 teams. The IPL's gone to 10. The Bash allows for 5 teams to enter the playoffs by simply adding 1 more game to the knockout. So effectively, you're looking at 5 playoff games instead of 4, like the IPL does. The Bash saw some merit in it. Would you like to see it applied to the IPL?
I think 10 teams obviously justifies it more than the 8 in the BBL. I think it's overkill in the BBL, but you see it in a lot of sports around the world where they're pushing for more content and pushing for more of those playoff games where so much is on the line. They have the playing game in MLB after 162 games. They still play 1 game to decide who gets into the playoffs. They're doing it for NBA now. My biggest point is that it would save a lot of coaches' careers because all you got to do is sneak into the semi-finals and you get to keep your job. So I'm all for it. 5 teams, go for it.
Let me ask the current player what he feels. The active player should have an opinion on this. So, Piyush Chawla, how would you welcome how would you receive the move if the IPL were to expand the playoff chances to 5 teams? Piyush.
I totally agree with Ravi bhai, as he mentioned, because 5 teams would be like too much because you just have 10 teams and then you think 5 teams can make it to the playoff. The things won't be that interesting. Right now, like you have 10. Earlier, few teams qualified on 14 points in playoff. But here, it doesn't seem like the team will qualify on 14 points. So, but you add 1 more team on that, they will make it on 14 points. So the competition won't be there. And it won't be that interesting.
Okay, so Piyush is happy with the 4. Now, if we do go to 5, it'll mean 1 more playoff, which means 1 more knockout game for Ian Bishop to cover because he's going to be on all the playoff rosters. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Let me see if Bish would welcome such a move. He says no right away. Whether that is to the actual question or to my reference to what he would gain from it, I don't know. But Bish.
It was to the gains that would be had from it, to be honest. Look, there are several perspectives, and apart from the commercial perspective, I don't know enough about that. But I think there's a certain allure to an extra team getting into a playoff contention from this point of view. I know 4 teams, it makes it desperate, it makes it intense when you get those 4 teams going into the playoffs. But one more from a broadcasting point of view would create interest a little bit longer, because at some point you can find 2 or 3 teams out of the race, maybe 2/3 of the way into the tournament. This way, I think you can have an extra little incentive and competition as you head closer to the playoffs, with a number of lower ranked teams battling for that spot. So I can see a lot of merit in it. Not that this version and format is bad, but I can also see the benefit of 5 being an added and a good thing.
Let me come back to Venky. Bish mentions there is another incentive for the BCCI to do this, which is suddenly when the rights are being split next year, the value of a playoff game seems to be higher. Now I'm adding one more playoff game to that. So I wonder if that would in any way tilt the balance in favor of having an extra playoff. Venky, at all an issue?
No, definitely. I think, there is a commercial angle to this for sure. But I think from a competition standpoint, I would also say, Raunak, that, it's a tough season, that you go through, and people ask me about championships. And I said, after we won the first one in 2012, the first thing that hits you is how difficult it is to win a championship in IPL. And having been slightly on the receiving end, I'll give you one more perspective, is that there have been several seasons where the 5th team, and we've been on the receiving end, misses out because of the run rate. And in 2020, 19 and 20, we were tied for the 4th place, but we missed out on run rate, and it hurt very badly in 20, because ultimately our analysts shared that over the entire season, 8 runs made the difference between us and the team that went through. So there is a case there if you want to bring in that competition.
From a viewing perspective, there is a fatigue element that can come in, right? Especially when the league's already expanded. Is that fatigue element likely to in any way be reduced if we increase it to 5 teams, or is it likely to even get more challenging if the league expands, if we go to 9 home games and 9 away games from next year? Dan?
Yeah, look, I'm probably contrary to my early opinion. I like the ruthless nature of only 4 teams making it, and Ravi's point's right around. Once we get to the home and away, then we'll decide the top 4 teams. There's going to be a 5th team that's going to be incredibly tough on, but that's just reality. That's what we have to deal with. And if we just keep putting games in, then there is potential to dilute the product. You see it at the moment sometimes when games don't mean anything, the lack of interest that can come about for it. So both sides, but I think if there's a fair competition in home and away, I like the ruthlessness of 4 teams. Everyone knows what to expect.
Okay, I'm going to go down the room. Ravi, anything to add before I ask everyone their final word?
Nothing to add. I'll stick to what I said, because the beauty about the IPL is the intensity, and the competition, and the world-class competition that exists, where there is a real fight to get into that top 4. So even now, if you look at this year's tournament, you can't, barring 2 teams who are sitting pretty, you can't say who's going to be the next 2. There's going to be a scramble. That's the fun element. That's the intrigue. That's the suspense that goes with the IPL, which I love.
Okay, Bish, it looks like you're carrying this flag alone, unless Venky actually gives me sort of, confirmation that yes, I want 5 teams. KKR wants 5 teams. So I want Bish to give me his last word. Are you convinced at all from the rest of the pin, including Dan's turncoat argument, where he now says no, he actually likes the 4 instead of the 5? Bish,
no. I just didn't want to be accused of being self-serving, which I was earlier on.
So either you are self-serving, or you're gullible enough or fickle-minded that you've changed your opinion after listening to a couple of boys. I don't know what's worse, Vettori. But anyway.
No, I'm not altruistic. I don't want to give away playoff spots.
Okay, Bish, are you sticking to 5? Are you saying it's something that the IPL should seriously consider? 5 teams to the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's a consideration, because look, if we go back to a format where it was semi-finals, right? There was desperation in semi-finals. You had one chance if you were one of the top 4 teams to get to the final. And then we went to the playoff, where you had another chance if you lost one of those games. So I think the desperation will still be there. It'll just make more desperate games deeper into the competition potentially for teams, less dead rubbers, so to speak. So I'm sticking with my opinion.
Venky, final word from you, 4 or 5? What would you like to see?
5, because I think, there are ways in which the top 2 finishers, for example, get rewarded right now. I mean, I'll throw some statistics out here. 8 out of the 11 championships have been won by the team that won the first game, playoffs. And there's only one occasion in which the team that has finished 3rd or 4th has actually won the championship since 2011. And so there is an inherent advantage that is in there, but where it gets a little challenging, and maybe I'm a little too close to the action there, Raunak, is when the 4th and 5th get decided by the run rate. Maybe there is a case for a different tiebreaker rather than a run rate, but maybe the answer is the 5th one coming in if they're tied on points. So that's kind of where I'm going with it, with a tinge of bias there, but trying to back it up with as much data as possible to make.
Maybe if not net 100, then whoever's won more IPL championships should go through. If they.
No, I think head to head is the tiebreaker with that team probably.
You mean head to head of the season or head to head overall? Head to head
with that team that you're tied with.
Head to head of the season, he's saying.
Of the season, right? So out of the 2 games, like we have.
Yeah.
And if there's a tie there.
So. That's another show.
Whoever's hit more boundaries, yeah. If the ICC
super over between the 2.
Ravi, are you happy with 4 now or 4 for at least the long-term future?
I'm speaking in English here, Raunak. I said 4.
Dan, 4 or 5?
He did say 4 for now. So Ravi's keeping that open a little bit for us.
4 for now.
All right. Bish 5, Venky 5, Ravi 4, Dan 4, and Piyush 4. All right, this was fun. Let's see what you guys think. Big thank you to Venky, Mysore, Ravi, Shastri, and Bishop, Dan, Vettori, Piyush, Chawla for this special edition of ESPN Cricket for Runorder. Are we looking at any reservations in those 5? Maybe 1 spot reserved for MI, 1 spot for CSK, 1 spot for KKR. Any takers for that? That is good for a competitive.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
Yeah. This is where we should have started the chat. Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. A pleasure.